As we discussed previously, UCS Director is a turnkey solution where multiple administrators, operators, and end users can all access the UCS Director appliance through a single management portal and automate and orchestrate both their private and public cloud infrastructure. They can use single sign-on, role-based access control, integrate with IT ticketing systems, do metering and chargeback. We can integrate with your servers, storage, and network, as well as other devices through open automation. We can tie all this together with single sign-on with Active Directory, role-based access control inside of UCS Director, and tie into your ticketing systems and even provide metering and chargeback. UCS Director also provides multi-tenancy through the use of virtual data centers, where you can provide separate storage, network, compute, and system policies, as well as separate cost models for individual resources, and then give access to those resources to users through specified groups. UCS Director can be deployed very easily in a single node deployment through the deployment of an OVF in your environment. Everything encompassed inside of that green box, the inventory database, the monitoring database, the primary node, and UCS Director service node, is all encompassed within that single node. You would potentially have to add an additional node if you were going to interact with bare metal services with a bare metal appliance. This bare metal appliance gives us the ability to have bare metal resources pixie boot and automatically load their operating system. The UCS Director service node is what reaches out to each of your storage, compute, virtualization, and network devices as defined in workflows. When you reach an environment of 5,000 nodes or more, it's recommended to install a multi-node deployment. The difference here is that each of these independent roles is now performed by a separate server. In the previous slide, there was a green box around all of those services because they were all on the same box. In a multi-node deployment, we break these services out into at least 4 boxes, one for the inventory database, one for the monitoring database, one for the primary node, and at least one UCS Director service node. There obviously can be more than that if the need arises. Let's talk a little bit about how we orchestrate and use workflows inside of UCS Director. A workflow is basically a set of tasks that are grouped together to give you an end result. So for instance, on the left you can see my workflow. The first thing it does is interact with storage, second network, third compute, and finally virtualization. And at the end of this workflow, I will have a fully configured server that is up and running on compute hardware, has access to the network, and has the appropriate amount of storage. With UCS Director, not only do we make it easy to configure these workflows, but we can put them into templates. We can import, export, control versioning on them. We can send them off for approval as we enable a workflow, and we can also do automated rollback. After your workflow is all set, we publish that to a catalog and let either your internal IT or your end users access those workflows to create an automated environment such as infrastructure as a service. UCS Director contains over 1,300 tasks by default in the task library. These tasks are for compute, network, storage, layer 4 through 7 devices, and virtualization. You can also create custom tasks to extend the functionality. On the right, you can see a set of tasks that are built in just for UCS. The tasks are building blocks to perform complex operations. When we want to create a workflow, we can go into the workflow designer and drag a task from the left onto the canvas on the right. We then define task information, such as what is it named and what are the variables that we want to work with. And we can also draw arrows on the tasks. For instance, if the task completes successfully, I want this to happen. If the task fails, I want this to happen. So as you can see, it becomes very easy to create custom workflows in this environment. Whether you're creating your own workflows or using the workflows that are built in, you can see that it becomes very easy to start automating and orchestrating your environment. This leads to single-click provisioning, intelligent resource allocation, and automated controlled delivery of resources inside of your data center. You can take tasks that used to take 127 different touches by multiple users and deploy that in minutes. Here is an example of a real-world workflow that you can automate with UCS Director. In this case, we're doing the OS deployment and automation of UCS. Down on the right-hand side, you'll see that the network admin would have some tasks, the storage admin would have other tasks, and the compute admin would have the last set of tasks. Not only can these tasks be automated, but we can also define policies and templates to make sure that your company's best practices are defined. So as you can see, we can put these 19 different touch points in an orchestrated workflow that you can literally double click on and in a couple minutes have a server that is up and running in your environment. Finally, we can take inputs from multiple areas and put them into the workflow as you see fit. For instance, in this case, the administrator may have certain inputs that he wants to put in himself or not let the user specify. He's also going to design how these inputs chain together. The user is also going to have some inputs that we need to rely on for the creation of these services. So we can take inputs from both, chain them together, and in the end provide you with resources in a controlled, manageable manner. Please join me for the next lesson 12.3, Examining UCS Director Multi-Tenancy.